All right, so you want to grow a bigger and more aesthetic chest. Well, in an effort to avoid hindering your gains, here are the 3 worst mistakes to avoid when training chest if you want more efficient muscle growth. Without further ado, let's get straight into it. Now, the very first mistake you want to avoid is only doing pressing exercises for your chest exercises. Now, obviously, pressing movements like the barbell bench press, incline dumbbell bench press, and even something like a dip are all staple movements that you should be incorporating in your overall chest day routine. But if your chest routine looks something like exercise number 1, flat barbell bench press, exercise number 2, incline dumbbell bench press, exercise number 3, decline bench press, well, I think we can further optimize from here. Well, in that case, I'd actually recommend you incorporate some sort of cable or pec deck fly movement where you can actually train the chest in a more shortened position, meaning you're actually getting resistance going across the chest, unlike in the case of doing a regular press. See, if you ever wondered the advantage that a cable fly or a pec deck fly has over something like a barbell bench press, was the fact that the direction of the resistance is going across the body, meaning as you contract the chest, aka shorten it, in the shortened position, you're still getting resistance on the chest. Compare that to a free weight press where in the shortened position when your arms are straight, well, there's not really much resistance in that top position at all. Now, the only exception would be if you're using a converging machine chest press, where in that case, you actually are going to be getting resistance going across the body, but you're still probably not going to be able to shorten as much as on a pec deck fly. Also, if you notice that you're accumulating more and more joint pain in your elbows or shoulders as the weeks go by, or maybe your progress has pretty much been stagnant on all your presses, it could be due to having too much chest pressing volume, especially if you're following a bro split or a PPL split where you're doing multiple chest exercises all in one day, which in that case, you might benefit from substituting one of the exercises for, again, some sort of cable / pec deck fly type of movement. Also, if you're wondering, Tyler, looks like you got some new clothes. Well, my clothing sponsor, Able, dropped some new colors for their men's line, which I highly recommend you check out. Because honestly, I would say in terms of like quality to price, Able's pretty up there, man. It's like the quality of Alphalete at the price of Gymshark. So if you're looking to get some high quality portable gym wear, definitely check out Able and use code PATH to get an extra 10% off at checkout. It is a great way to support my page, but if not, all good. I would just appreciate a like on this video if you found it helpful, and consider hitting subscribe if you want more helpful gym content. Let's get back to it. The second mistake you want to avoid is not stabilizing your body on your chest exercises. I'm willing to make a bet that fixing this issue will literally increase your strength on pretty much all your chest exercises immediately, with maybe the exception of like a pec deck fly, which is already stable as is. But for most other chest exercises, knowing how to stabilize your body properly via engaging supporting muscle groups will make a day and night difference. Once you do it, you'll never be able to go back. Now, for the sake of making this video relatively concise, I'm gonna give you the 3 most important ways you can actually stabilize yourself on various popular chest exercises. Number 1 would be setting up the cables properly on a cable fly. Second one is knowing how to use leg drive on a bench press. And thirdly would be stabilizing the shoulder joint on pretty much every single chest exercise you're doing. Now, starting with properly setting up for a cable fly. Now, the standing cable fly is a pretty unstable exercise to begin with, so it's probably in your best interest to set up the movement so you're naturally in the most stable position possible, which in the case for a mid-chest focused cable fly, is actually not going to be like this with the cables set at chest height, contrary to what you might think. Instead, I actually recommend you set the cables up higher, and in order to get the same arm path so that we're mid-chest biasing instead of, let's say, doing a low to high cable fly, and what we're gonna do is lean our torso forward so that we have the same arm path as we did before, roughly 90 degrees here. Instead of having my feet together like this, where again, it's not gonna be the most stable, I recommend you take a staggered stance, as you're likely to be in a more stable position being here rather than here. Now moving on to leg drive. A lot of people don't even think about using their legs on a bench press, but your legs do play a crucial role in stabilizing the body on a bench press by giving yourself a stable base to actually press off of. And luckily, leg drive doesn't really need to be all that complicated. Just make sure that your feet are firmly planted on the ground and your knees are bent to at least 90 degrees. Now, a common misconception on leg drive is people think they need to press straight into the ground, but that tends to pretty much shoot your hips up off the bench, which you want to avoid. Instead, what I recommend you doing is think about sliding your feet forward during the concentric parts of the press. Concentric meaning the part where you're actually pressing the weight back up. Now a big tip is being extra forceful with sliding your feet into the ground at the bottom of the concentric just as you press. Last but most importantly, the shoulder joint. Now this is unequivocally the most important of them all to get down. So things are getting serious, guys. I'm gonna take off my pump cover. Most of the issues you have on bench press, whether it be not being able to go deep enough, generalized shoulder pain, or perhaps you not really even feeling it in your chest and instead maybe feeling it more in your front delts, probably has to do with an unstable shoulder joint. So don't worry, here is the fix for that. Now, a big misconception is that a fix for this is simply retracting the scapula. While this isn't entirely correct, because while having a retracted scapula can help you stabilize the shoulder joint and will probably help you feel it more in your chest and get a deeper range of motion in this bottom position, on the concentric, your shoulder blades should naturally protract a bit. So if you're like only thinking about retracting your scapula, now you're like benching with baby arms here, you're basically fighting your own anatomy due to something known as scapular humeral rhythm. I had to like repeat it 3 times to actually get that. Instead, when I say stabilize the shoulder joint, what you're really trying to do is to minimize the amount of scapular elevation and depression as you press. Meaning you don't want your shoulders coming up and down during the duration of a press. Thus, what I recommend is instead of just thinking about retracting the scapula and just holding this position throughout the entire duration of a press, what you actually want to do is first retract the scapula and then depress them downwards. Now, of course, there's gonna be some confusion from just me telling you what you should be doing. So what I recommend is using this really good mental cue, which I call bend the bar. We're essentially just thinking about bending the bar so that our thumbs are pointing up. Now, obviously your hands aren't actually gonna move on a barbell, you're not actually gonna bend the bar, but this will naturally engage your lats so that a natural arch will form under your spine as well as the bench, as well as retract and depress the shoulder blades downwards. And yes, I did say the lats, because the lats do play a supportive role on actually depressing and stabilizing the shoulder joint. Who would have thought? Now, if you want a step-by-step tutorial on how to perform various movements optimized for muscle growth, as well as perhaps just get an overall workout program that's optimized for your own specific goals, nutrition advice, weekly check-ins, the ability to ask questions as they come up, well, I highly recommend you apply to my exclusive one-on-one fitness coaching program, where I pretty much do just that. So if you're looking for more personal guidance and you're serious about getting your fitness goals, check the link in description below. Excited to work with you. Now, the third worst mistake is doing upper chest exercises the same exact way that you would do mid-chest exercises, just with an incline. Now, I used to be personally guilty of this, especially on incline barbell bench press. I'd use the same exact grip, the same exact amount of elbow flare when I'm pressing, and I even had the bar aligned at the same height, which resulted in me pretty often hitting the rack during my set, which is, of course, no fun. But something that drastically improved the strength of my upper chest exercises by pretty much having a more comfortable quality of life mid-set was this. Number one is having less elbow flare as I press, which means on an incline barbell bench press, it's taking a closer grip than you normally would on a flat bench press. You see, while on a flat bench press, you might be pressing at a more wider, let's call it 65, 70-ish degrees of elbow flare. On the incline press, I try to be closer to around 45 degrees. Also, with a closer grip, you're gonna fix the issue of having the bar constantly hit the rack during your set, which is the most annoying thing. Now, not only will you likely be able to increase your range of motion and probably have less shoulder pain when you're doing the incline press, but you're actually also gonna be able to better bias the upper chest, because with a more tucked elbow, you're gonna be pressing with more shoulder flexion as opposed to horizontal adduction. And if we look at the direction of the fibers of the upper chest and their natural origin as well as insertion point, the upper chest does in fact do more shoulder flexion than it does horizontal adduction, which basically means even if using the same arm path as you do on a flat bench press where you're a little bit more flared out is comfortable for you, you likely will be better off from a hypertrophy perspective if you tuck that elbow in just a little bit and get closer to that around 45 degrees. For the 3 worst mistakes to avoid when training chest, comment down below which mistakes were you guilty of committing, or maybe you're just so good that you didn't make any of those mistakes at all. Let me know down below. Thank you guys so much for watching this video, and I'll see y'all in the next one. Peace.